Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, I've put together a list of 7 fish that literally breed by themselves in your aquarium. So all 7 of these fish are super easy to care for. They're for the most part pretty community friendly and they are obviously very easy to breed. The only thing you're really going to need to breed these guys is just a stable aquatic environment. So as long as your pH isn't fluctuating too much, your temperature's staying pretty stable, there's no ammonia spikes, and it's also very beneficial if you have a nice plant load in there as well. But yeah, I guess without any further ado, let's just jump straight into today's video with the first fish on our list. So as for our first one today, we actually don't have a fish, we have cherry shrimp. So cherry shrimp are really great if you want to just create like a massive army of shrimp, just because they will just literally keep breeding. They'll have quite a few babies as well. And those babies will just rear themselves in the aquarium, so they'll find food for themselves, they'll stay safe. And yeah, they'll just grow up to be nice big cherry shrimp, and those guys will also begin to breed. And then you'll just have a massive colony of cherry shrimp that are breeding with each other. So there's not too much you need to do to get these guys to be comfortable enough to breed. The only thing I would recommend is making sure there's plenty of plants in there. So with plenty of plants, that gives the shrimplets or baby shrimp just plenty of areas to hide, particularly if you have other fish in your aquarium that may eat the baby shrimp. So yeah, aquarium plants are definitely necessary at giving the little baby shrimp somewhere to seek refuge, but they're also great at just triggering spawning in your cherry shrimp. So if the adults feel safe, they feel that there's plenty of plant life in there, they will be more inclined to actually breed. So yeah, plants are basically just one of the only things you need in your aquarium in order to get the cherry shrimp to breed successfully. So as for the water parameters you're going to want to be keeping the cherry shrimp in, you do want a temperature of about 18 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is about 64 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to want a pH anywhere between 6.5 to 7.5. They are very versatile, so they will breed in practically any pH, and they'll also breed unheated. So you don't need a heater in your aquarium for these guys to spawn whatsoever. So yeah, they really are just a great low maintenance, self-breeding aquarium fish. Another great thing about them, I think I briefly mentioned it before, but the shrimplets don't actually need too much care to get raised up to an adult shrimp. So like I said, they will just find the food themselves, and you can actually throw in botanicals and things like that, and those will grow a biofilm, which will give them an extra little food source as well. But for the most part, they'll mainly just go around and pick up any leftover food. If you have a sponge filter in your aquarium, you'll see them sitting on the sponge filter picking things out of that. And yeah, they will just look after themselves, I guess. But yeah, with that being said, as for the first self-breeding fish on our list, it's cherry shrimp. Moving on to the second one on our list, this one is not going to come as a surprise to anybody. We have guppies. So guppies are by far one of the most popular beginner aquarium fish, just because of how easy it actually is to breed them. So obviously they are a live bearer, which means they don't lay eggs, but they actually give birth to live young. And those live young come out ready to go, so they'll eat food straight away. They don't sit at the bottom of your aquarium, they'll literally just be swimming as soon as they come out of the mother. So again, with these guys, I would recommend keeping them with plants, just because the guppy fry are super small and the parents are very prone to actually eat them. So if you have plenty of plants in there, it gives a space for the fry to go and hide in and get away from the parents or any other fish in your aquarium. And those live aquarium plants will actually also foster all sorts of little microorganisms which can feed the guppy fry as well. And another thing I would recommend is trying to keep these guys with a sponge filter in your aquarium, just because the guppy fry are very small and they can be sucked into your filter and chopped up very easily. So it's best to have them in a sponge filter where that can't happen. As for feeding the guppy fry, they will eat baby brine shrimp straight away. That's by far one of the best foods you can feed them. But if you don't have that, I would recommend just getting some flake food, crushing it up super finely and soaking that in some water. And then you can just put that in your aquarium and they should eat that as well. You do want to make sure it is super fine though, and like almost a dust, just because the guppy fry don't have a very big mouth, so they won't be able to eat anything that's too big. And you also want to make sure you're going back and picking up any of that leftover food after about 10 minutes or so, and that's just because that can foul up the water quite quickly, and because the guppy fry are very sensitive, you don't want foul water whatsoever. It can just kill them instantly. But yeah, as for the water parameters for these guys, exactly like the cherry shrimp, a temperature of about 18 to 26 degrees Celsius, which which is about 64 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Although for these guys, I would recommend a pH of about 7.5 to 8. You can go from 6 to 8, although they are a live bearer, and a lot of live bearers do prefer that higher pH, so about 7.5 to 8. And in these water parameters, it will support a lot more breeding as well. But yeah, with that being said, guppies are another great little self-breeding aquarium fish, and I would highly recommend them. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have one that I actually kept a little while ago. I don't keep them anymore just because they're kind of annoying, but we have convict cichlids. So these guys literally breed like all the time. When I had them, they breed probably about 2, maybe even 3 times a week. And these guys will literally breed in any sort of water parameters. So you could basically breed them in like a bucket outside if you wanted to. Not that I'd recommend that just because that's a little bit cruel, but yeah, they will literally breed in any sort of water quality. The water could be completely murky and they'd still breed. I don't know why, they just love breeding, I guess. So these fish are great for beginners who are just looking to take that one step up from things like guppies and cherry shrimp, just because the convicts are an egg-laying fish and the mother will actually rear the fry. So it's a little bit of a different breeding process than the easier guppies and things like that. The only problem I find with these guys is actually nothing to do with their breeding, and that's just getting rid of the fry. So because they breed so much, there's literally no shortage of convict cichlids ever. So it can be super difficult to get rid of the fry, and you're probably only getting about $1 to $2 for the fry, even if you are able to get rid of them. And that's just because the market is completely saturated with these guys. They literally will never stop breeding. So I would recommend maybe getting a little bit of a rarer convict cichlid, and by rarer I mean just like an albino convict cichlid, which is a little bit more sought after than the regular convicts. But if you're not looking to sell the fry and you just want to have a nice big colony, or you are willing to get rid of the eggs when they do spawn, then they can be a great fish to have. As for the water parameters for these guys, you're going to want a temperature of about 24 to 28 degrees Celsius, which is about 75 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to want a pH anywhere between 6.5 to 7.5. The only other thing I will say about these guys is they can be a little bit aggressive. So being a cichlid, they can be very territorial when they have like a little rock or something with their eggs on it. So you don't want to keep them with any shy or delicate fish. But they definitely can go with fast moving or active fish like danios, tetras, maybe even some barbs and rasboras. But yeah, with that being said, convicts are another great little self-breeding aquarium fish, and I would highly recommend them. Moving on to the next fish on our list, I've actually sort of squashed two together just because they're basically the same fish, and that's swordtails and platies. So these two fish are again great beginner fish. They are live bearers as well, which means much like the guppies, they do give birth to live young. The only thing is these live young are just that little bit bigger than the guppies live young. So again, these guys are pretty much exactly like the guppies. You do want to have plants in there, and that just gives a spot for the live young to hide. But besides that, they breed the exact same way, so they don't need to be heated, but they do better if they are heated. And one of the great things about these guys is the fry, like I said, is a little bit bigger, which means they can be just that little bit easier to raise, so they'll eat bigger food when they come out. So you can feed them things like mosquito larvae, baby brine shrimp again, and even the broken down flake food. As for water parameters for these guys, you do want a temperature of about 21 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is about 70 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're also going to want a much higher pH again, so about 7 to 8. They will go in lower pHs, but again, they do prefer those higher pHs, particularly if you're trying to breed them. But yeah, with that being said, swordtails and platies are another great group of self-breeding aquarium fish. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have another cichlid. We've actually got a super colorful one. We have duel cichlids. So again, these guys are literally like convict cichlids. They're just a little bit more colorful. So they can be a little bit aggressive when they breed. They'll be very territorial, but the mother will raise the fry as well. These guys are probably just that little bit better than convict cichlids in my opinion, just because they are very colorful, so they can be sold a little bit easier. Although in saying that, once again, they have saturated the market completely, and there's no shortage of duel cichlids ever as well. And the main reason for that is because number one, they do breed very easily, but they also don't sell very easily, just because they can be very aggressive. So a lot of people don't really want to buy them, I guess. They do look very nice, and in the right sort of setup with the right sort of tank mates, they can be a super beautiful little fish. But yeah, they can just be a little bit hard to get rid of once you have bred thousands of them. As for water parameters for these guys, you're going to want a temperature of about 24 to 28 degrees Celsius, which is about 76 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And once again, a pH of about 6.5 to 7.5 is best. But yeah, with that being said, duel cichlids are definitely another great little self-breeding aquarium fish. Moving on to the next species of fish on our list, we have another one that's similar to the Swordtail Platies, Guppies. We have Mollies. So Mollies are literally the exact same as Platies, except they're more closely related to things like Endlers and Guppies. So these guys are a bit of a bigger bodied live bearer. You can obviously get balloon mollies, which are a short body version of just the regular mollies. They're all obviously live bearers, so they're very easy to breed. You're just going to want to make sure you have plenty of plants in there for the young to hide in. But besides that, there's nothing really else that you need to do to get these guys to actually breed. As for the water parameters, they do prefer a little bit warmer than the others, so about 24 to 27 degrees Celsius is best, and that's obviously about 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And these guys do also like a little bit higher of a pH, so anywhere between 7.5 to 8.5. But yeah, with that being said, mollies are another great little self-breeding aquarium fish. And then moving on to the final fish on our list, this one I could have probably slipped in with guppies, but I wanted to make the list a little longer, and that's endlers. So I do think that endlers deserve their own spot. They are by far one of the most peaceful, easy to care for, just cool little aquarium fish out there. They don't need a big tank. They can go with a variety of tank mates, so they can even go with things like cherry shrimp and other super small fish. And they obviously come in a variety of colors, so you could obviously get like assorted endlers, which is like what I've got back here, and you just get all sorts of colors coming out of them when they breed. So endlers are very similar to guppies. You do want to keep them in an aquarium with plants. However, I find that they don't actually eat their fry as much. Big females will eat their fry, but the males and smaller females don't really have a big enough mouth to eat the fry. The fry are definitely a lot smaller than guppy fry, but they're just that little bit too big to fit in the endlers' mouths. So most of the time, they'll be pretty safe in your aquarium, particularly if you have just a few plants for them to go and hide in if they are being chased. As for water parameters for these guys, they can go unheated, but the preferred water parameters would be a temperature of about 22 to 28 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit, and a pH anywhere between 6.5 to 8. I do find that endlers are a lot more hardy when it comes to pH, so they can go in low pHs or they can go in super high pHs. They don't really mind. They're a very hardy fish. But yeah, with that being said, endlers are another super great self-breeding aquarium fish, and I would highly recommend them. So that is actually going to bring us to the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope this video helps a few of you guys out. If you did enjoy today's video and you haven't done so already, please make sure to go down and subscribe, and while you're down there, smash the like button and comment your thoughts on today's video. I always love going down there and reading them all, and I try to reply back to as many as I can. Also, if you haven't done so already, make sure to go check out my website, aussiefishkeeping.com. You can pick up some endlers, I've got some guppies up there, all sorts of live aquarium fish, botanicals, and a few other aquarium products. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in that next video.